Hello everyone, so today we're diving into a topic that affects all of us, sugary drinks. Have you noticed that you don't really see ads for your favorite sodas in Singapore anymore? But why is that? Well, the government decided to make a bold move, banning advertisement for unhealthy drinks. But this is not just a random decision. Behind it, there are major public health concerns, shifts in consumer habits, and even big consequences for businesses. In this video, we'll break it all down. The impact of this banishment, what consumers think of it, how companies are adapting, and most importantly, does this policy actually work in Singapore? So, let's get into it.
Have you noticed there hasn't been a lot of advertisements for my favorite drink around? Bruh, do you even read the news? Singapore banned advertisements of very sugary drinks. Of course, your favorite classic Coca-Cola, which is new to grade D, won't be advertised.
So do you guys want to know more about sugary drinks? What will you choose? The blue pill or the red pill?
I like red, so I'm going to choose the red too. You're being fed an addictive substance that isn't just sweetness, but it's a drug.
Guess what Singapore decided to do about this?
What?
They banned advertisements on sugary drinks.
No way!
And they were the first country to do this.
Are we surprised?
Well, why did they do this? Let's find out.
Like many developed nations, Singapore saw a rise in obesity rates over the past few decades. The trend of increasing rates was concerning. According to National Health Survey, the prevalence of obesity among Singaporean adults has increased over time, with the rate rising from 6.9% in 1992 to 10.5% in 2010. By 2020, the rate was around 10.5% for adults, while the rate for children showed a worrying increase in type 2 diabetes particularly. To curb this issue, the government issued two policies: Nutri-Grade labeling of drinks with high sugar content and ban on advertisements of sugary drinks labeled C or D. The policies were initiated in 2019. It was part of Health Promotion Board's efforts to reduce the consumption of unhealthy beverages. The ban was aimed at limiting consumption of sugary drinks through labeling and advertisements on platforms that were targeted at young audiences.
Advertisements play a significant role in shaping consumer demand, especially for products like sugary drinks, which are often impulsive purchasing and habit building. A major determinant of demand is preferences, which is driven by advertisements. A high exposure to advertisements for sugary drinks causes customers to build preferences for certain sugary drinks like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, making consumption habit forming. Further, eye-catching ads allure consumers to try the different varieties of drinks being sold by the company. These habits lead to irrational overconsumption, leading to negative externality. Secondly, advertisements make demand less elastic because consumers eventually become brand loyal. A Pepsi drinker refuses to drink Coke. A Coke drinker refuses to have Pepsi. Further, these loyal drinkers perceive there to be fewer substitutes to their favorite drink. Nothing matches a Coca-Cola. They prefer having a sugary soda rather than seeing the negative impact it has on their health. Thus, this further increases the external cost of consuming these drinks, increasing the negative externality. So, what's a negative externality? A negative externality occurs when consumption or production of certain goods cause external costs. High sugary drinks are demerit goods because the consumption creates negative externalities for the society. Sugary drinks provide personal utility to the consumer, however, they create health consequences such as obesity, high blood pressure, and other health issues. These conditions are external costs which burden the public healthcare system by increasing government expenditure on medical treatments and reducing workforce productivity. Since consumers do not bear the full social cost of their consumption, they tend to overconsume sugary drinks, leading to a market failure. Due to overconsumption, there is allocative inefficiency, which means lack of optimal allocation. As seen in the diagram, marginal private benefit is greater than marginal social benefit, causing welfare loss and overconsumption from Q star to Q1. By reducing or eliminating advertisements, the goal is to decrease the visibility and appeal of sugary drinks, particularly to more impressionable consumers who are most vulnerable to marketing tactics. Since advertisement plays a significant role in creating appeal to products like sugary drinks, banning advertisements can reduce the constant exposure to sugary drink promotions, which, as discussed before, influences consumer preferences and tastes. The policies help consumers internalize most of the negative externality by reducing overconsumption of sugary drinks and thus minimizing dead weight loss. A ban on advertisements can lead to a direct shift in consumer behavior in the short run. The marginal private benefit curve shifts closer to the marginal social benefit curve as represented by the leftward shift of D1 to D2. In the long run, without advertisements, Fewer individuals develop a taste for these in the first place, leading to long-term reductions in consumption, so the MPB further shifts leftward, where it is equivalent to the MSB curve, completely eliminating deadweight loss and ensuring societal welfare.
Although these policies are targeted at consumers to reduce demand, do they have any effect on suppliers? Let's find out from them. Hi, may I know how have the policies affected you?
So the advertisement regulation did affect us suppliers, in particular smaller companies. Without the exposure of advertisements, it's harder to reach a lot larger audience. Everybody is so health conscious these days. We have to adapt and to come up with healthier alternatives. If not, we'll be losing money since there's a drop of sales in sugary drinks.
So we heard about how the ad ban affects suppliers. Let's go into detail about this. In the short run, firms face fixed costs, meaning they cannot immediately adjust their production capacity or processes. This means there is no immediate change in supply. Since the ban affects advertising but not production directly, the market supply curve remains unchanged in the short run. However, in the long run, firms have more flexibility to adjust in changing market conditions. According to a study published in 2024, firms are responding to the change in consumer behavior by producing healthier versions in order to stay competitive. First, there is an important shift in the distribution towards zero sugar production after 2019 for instant coffee, iced coffee, and soft drinks. This suggests that many sugar reduction efforts took the form of sugar-free or near sugar-free product introductions. This increased the cost of production for the firms, reducing their willingness to supply at the previous price level. This decreased the supply, as represented by the leftward shift of the supply curve from S1 to S2. At every price level, quantity supply decreases. Next, advertising leads to a change in consumer preferences and influence their marginal utility. With a ban on ads, consumers may shift away from sugary drinks, causing demand to decrease, as seen by a leftward shift of the demand curve from D1 to D2. A decrease in demand, assuming supply remains constant, leads to a surplus at the original price. This creates downward pressure on prices, forcing suppliers to either lower prices or accept reduced sales. Since the fall in demand in the short run, but supply only falls in the long run, the extent in the fall in demand is greater than the fall in supply. Hence, at every price level, market equilibrium falls from Q1 to Q2 and equilibrium price falls from P1 to P2.
You may be thinking, why didn't Singapore use taxation to solve the negative externality? More than 100 countries around the world have a sugar tax. So why did Singapore ban ads instead of taxing sugary drinks? Let's dive into the analysis of what would have happened if we did tax sugary drinks. Suppose the government imposed a tax on sellers equal to the marginal external cost MEC. The supply curve would shift leftwards from S to S plus tax, which accounts for the negative externality caused by sugary drinks. As a result, the equilibrium price rises from P market to PC, which is the higher price consumers now have to pay. Additionally, the quantity demanded decreases from Q market to Q optimal, reflecting the reduction in the market quantity due to the tax. So what does this mean in terms of efficiency? Who wins and who loses? From the diagram, we can see that the consumer surplus decreases from RKL to R. This shows that the buyers lose for sure. For producer surplus, we can see it decreases from M and J to J. This shows that sellers lose for sure as well. As for government revenue, it was initially 0, but after the tax, it becomes K plus M, based on the area for tax T and the new quantity Q optimal. This shows that the government gains. In terms of external surplus, it actually decreases from negative KMLNVW to negative KM. This shows how the rest of society gains as the external cost has now decreased. For the deadweight loss, which is the gap between demand and supply curve for the output deviated from the efficient level, initially it was V plus W, but it becomes 0 after the tax because the output level with tax equals the socially optimal level, meaning there is no longer a gap between social demand and social supply curve. Overall, the total surplus, which is given by consumer surplus plus producer surplus plus government revenue plus external surplus, it was actually R plus J minus V minus W, but now it becomes R plus J, which means there's an increase in total surplus as the deadweight loss is eliminated. So, taxes may actually increase efficiency in a market with negative externalities by causing people to internalize the externalities. However, The extent to which taxes actually allow people to internalize these externalities is dependent on the PED of the good. The reality in Singapore is that, based on studies, demand for sugary drinks is actually relatively price inelastic. This means that many consumers are used to drinking sugary drinks daily, making it hard to cut back even if prices rise. Hence, we can see that an increase in price due to the tax leads to a less than proportionate fall in quantity demanded. The incidence of tax falls more on the consumer side. They would bear the higher price and continue to purchase the taxed sugary drink, so a tax alone may not be effective in significantly reducing sugar consumption to the socially optimal quantity. That's why the government opted for a ban on advertisements instead, which directly targets the root cause, which is consumer taste and preferences. Without advertising, people are less likely to crave sugary drinks, leading to a direct decrease in demand, eliminating dead weight loss in the long run. Lastly, there is also the issue of equity. A tax on sugary drinks would be regressive, meaning that it would disproportionately burden lower-income households. Since lower-income consumers would spend a larger share of their income on essentials, a price increase on sugary drinks would worsen income inequality without reducing consumption much. All this means that an ad ban is a more equitable approach, since it does not increase costs directly for consumers, but instead influences market behavior and firm strategies. The ban of advertising is also more effective in making the consumer internalize the negative externality as compared to tax.
Okay, so to wrap things up, the ban on sugary ads had a significant market impact, encouraging reformulation and potentially lowering sugar intake. However, its success depends on whether ads truly influence consumer choices. Though not perfect, the ban may better shape long-term habits than a tax. To boost its impact, it should be paired with health campaigns and clearer labeling.
After hearing all that, I think I'm just gonna stick to volume.
Ooh, you skinny legend.